Hello and welcome to the Business Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Holly Wharton. I've been an entrepreneur since 1999, and I know firsthand how difficult it can be to build a business without the right mindset. This is a podcast for those of us who struggle with showing up in our business with confidence and authenticity, who resist taking big action because of fears and doubts, who know deep down that it's possible to create something bigger, and yet you're not. This podcast combines powerful strategies on how to upgrade your business mindset, along with practical business tips to grow your business more easily in a way that feels aligned. This podcast features solo shows with me and also interviews with inspiring women entrepreneurs from around the world, including my monthly co-hosted episodes with Joe Casey. My goal is to help you grow your business more quickly and easily by transforming your mindset. For me, mindset work is a lifelong practice, and I want to help you make a habit out of mindset work. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, let's get into this week's episode. Hello and welcome to the Business Mindset Podcast, episode 227. This is your host, Holly Wharton, and I'm here with today's special guest, Louise George. Louise is a transformational coach, business mentor, speaker, and screen actress. After careers in property, then advertising and running businesses in property management and fitness coaching, and then burning out, Louise decided it was time to follow her heart and create the life she truly desired with a business that enables her to work from anywhere, follow her passions, and help other women to gain the clarity, mindset, and tools to live the life they desire too. In less than a year, Louise created a six-figure coaching business while traveling the world. I'm so excited to talk to you today. Welcome, Louise.
Thank you so much, Holly. I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So why don't you start out by telling us a little bit about your background and your business journey and how you got to where you are today, because you've got a lot of variety in your experience.
That's just my personality. First of all, I trained as an actor, so it meant that in the early days of that, I had to do lots of different things to make ends meet and to support myself. And also, I don't know if you know much about the Enneagram, but I'm a 7, so it's very typical of 7s to have lots of different interests and things going on, and we're kind of fast learners. And yeah, I've always had lots of different interests and things going on and things in the pipeline. But that really didn't support me. 10 years ago, I was really doing things the way that society expects and going after things externally and following that kind of linear path to success, studying and then getting a job and a car and a house and all of that stuff, which never really sat right with me. I always felt like I was meant for something else, but I didn't know about business at the time or being an entrepreneur. When I discovered business, I was like, aha, I can actually work for myself and create my own reality. But again, in the early days of business for me, I hadn't really done the self-development work. And so again, I was looking at things externally and what I could do or should do, but not what was really aligned for me. So it's been kind of a decade of self-development and spirituality. And it was a couple of years ago that it was 2014 actually, that I created the company I have now and started down this journey. And now I really do have a company and a lifestyle that lights me up. And it's not always easy, but I found my flow and have been able to reintroduce things that truly are aligned and do light me up now. So yeah, it's been a journey and it's still a journey, as you know, but it feels great now.
So tell us about, you created a six-figure coaching business in less than a year. That's pretty unusual. A lot of people really, really struggle to build a coaching business. So what did that look like for you, and why do you think you were able to do this in such a short period of time?
Well, I think I was able to do it in such a short period of time because I'd spent 8 years previously in and out of business, figuring things out, trying to do stuff the hard way, hustling. And I just got sick of that. And so at the end of 2015, I really had got to the pain point where it was just enough. I was already within coaching, but I was in that feast to famine cycle. And I just got to an age and a point in my life where I was like, do you know what? I'm not available for this anymore. There has to be an easier way. I'm no longer available to hustle or be pushing and forcing things. And so I really started studying. Well, actually, first of all, I made a decision. At that point, I decided, as I just said, I'm unavailable to work like this anymore, and that I need to do what it takes to create flow and freedom and work the way I want to work. So it came first with a decision in that moment. then I really looked at, right, what other entrepreneurs who have 6 and 7 figure businesses and beyond? And it wasn't about the money, but it was about that freedom piece. It was about making the impact that I wanted. So I really studied other people, and the common thread was they were supported by other people who had already done the hard work, who had already figured it out. And as Tony Robbins says, success leaves clues. And so that's what I looked at. And I changed everything. I think that was the moment that I got kind of serious about my business, and I wasn't playing at it anymore. And I really looked at what it was going to take for me to create that kind of business and lifestyle that I wanted. And I invested a lot financially, time-wise, energetically. But it meant that within a couple of months, I had hit my first 5-figure month. And then by the end of 2016, so it was really end of 2015, by the end of 2016, I had my first 6-figure year. So yeah, last year was a bit of a whirlwind and amazing, really. But it doesn't take that much. It takes that decision, first of all, and shifting and working out what it takes. And that's what I did.
Simply making that decision is a huge mindset shift.
Absolutely. That changed everything. It was really, and that's what I say to all my clients, like it has to come from, you have to decide first. Nothing will change unless you make that decision that it's going to. And then you do the work internally and externally. And that's what I did. And it wasn't hard. It was actually because I got in alignment with what really I wanted. And I had made that decision to follow it and to be guided and not just rely on my own strength anymore, which is what I had really done until that point. And I mean, be guided by mentors, coaches, and also divine guidance, like consciousness, something bigger than me, and to not do it by myself anymore. All of those pieces just changed everything for me. And so I did put the work in. I did invest, as I say, financially, time-wise, energetically, but it felt good. Like, so from the beginning of 2016 through to now, like I'm working on things that really light me up. I'm really supported more than I've ever been. And it's growing from here every day. So yeah.
So when you talk about support, is that coaching support, mentorship, masterminds, or having a VA that helps you with the tech stuff? What kinds of support did you bring in?
All of those pieces. So, and that's what I hadn't had up until the end of 2015. I was doing everything by myself. I'd invested here and there in some coaching support and some VA support, but nothing consistently. And I hadn't invested at the level that I needed to create a 6-figure business. Like if you want a 6 or 7-figure business, you need to be working with people who have already done that, who know how to do that. So that's what I did. I invested at an uncomfortable level in people who had the kind of businesses and lifestyles that I desired so that I could accelerate that success. I don't think we necessarily need coaches, but it certainly helps to bridge that gap much faster. You could spend years, like I had previously, I'd spent 8 years in business figuring things out on my own, or you can invest in working with someone who already knows how to get you there without having to make all the mistakes. So that's what I did. Mentors and coaches, masterminds as well. I think the combination of having a high-level coach for me and a mastermind of women who are at a similar level, going after the same kind of things, who are there to support one another, celebrate one another, and to be able to ask for help when you need it as well is invaluable. So the combination of a high-level coach and a mastermind is something that I will always have because it changed my life and continues to help me grow exponentially.
And as you were making these shifts and really stepping up in a bigger way with your business, did you experience any fears or blocks or limiting beliefs and mindset stuff coming up for you?
Oh, for sure. For sure. I had to do a lot of work, and that's what I really dove deep into once I made that decision and that investment at the end of 2015. And throughout 2016, I went on a very deep journey. And I had been already on like an 8-year journey of spirituality and self-development, but I dove deep. Over the last couple of years, I've gone deeper than I've ever been. I have had to uncover what my money stories were, limiting beliefs, fears, insecurities that I didn't even know were there, and to then reprogram those. And I continue to do that because every time, in my opinion and experience, every time we up level and we expand, we hit new limits, new blocks, fears, insecurities, or old ones try to resurface. It's a constant journey of, and I always say mindset work for me is a lifetime commitment and a daily practice. Yes. And the way I keep myself in a high vibe state is I practice and I'm committed to it. And I often have clients of mine or people in my community saying, are you always like this high vibe? And I'm like, no, but I work at it. I don't jump out of bed like Julie Andrews singing The Hills Are Alive, but I'm committed to getting myself into peak state, to working on my mindset. And just like if you go to the gym, you wouldn't just go once and go, yep, tick, I've done my gym workout for my life, my body's in peak state. You have to continually commit to it and to work out those muscles. And our mind, I think, is even more important. It's a muscle that needs working constantly. And so, yeah, that's what I've been committed to since.
And do you mind sharing with us some of your techniques or tools that you use to shift those beliefs and work on your mindset?
Well, the first thing is awareness.
Yeah.
You've got to be aware of what any limiting beliefs, fears, or insecurities are. So that's key. So anyone listening to this, if you're not aware of what might be blocking you to creating the business and life that you desire, get clear on that. And that will probably mean working with someone who can help you go there, because really only can go, what's got you to here will not get you to where you want to go next. So get clear on what those fears, insecurities, and limiting beliefs are, first of all. And once you have that awareness, that in itself can make a massive change. Once I had the awareness of my money stories and my money blocks that were keeping me stuck, just realizing where they came from changed everything for me. I was like, oh, well, that's huge and tiny at the same time. It was just such a small moment that programmed some beliefs for me. And just having that awareness just shifted it, because I could then let it go. Sometimes it is deeper surgery and you need to do a lot more work. But once you have the awareness, then you can start reprogramming. You can let those beliefs go and reprogram for the kind of beliefs that you desire to have.
I think that is so important to point out, and this is something I talk about all the time. Awareness is always the first step, because we get so used to sweeping this stuff under the rug, because there's so many people out there saying you've got to feel the fear and do it anyway, you've got to push through, just push and hustle. And that's not acknowledging these blocks and these fears and this mindset stuff that we have. And so once we do acknowledge that, we become aware of it, only then can we start working on it and just make things easier. Because yeah, you can push through, some people can, but it's terribly uncomfortable.
Absolutely. And I think that will only get you so far. From my own personal experience, that's how I was doing things up until my mid-20s, really. And actually, for me, that led to a breakdown. I was pushing and forcing and hustling, and it never felt good. And then I ended up suffering with depression, anxiety, panic attacks, because that's exactly what I was doing. So that's why I've now been on over a decade's worth of self-development and learning to do things with more ease and flow, and to have the awareness of what doesn't feel good. What are those fears, insecurities, and limiting beliefs, and then reprogramming them and being committed to doing that work. And then it can feel good. It can flow and not necessarily easy, but it can be simple, and you can do it with joy. So I think that's key. And yes, there is an element of facing the fear and doing it anyway, but it doesn't have to be pushing against it. You can learn to work with fear, actually.
I love that. So one of the big things I wanted to talk with you about today is how to understand your soul story and what makes you unique. And I think this is something that a lot of entrepreneurs really struggle with, because the things that make us unique are totally natural for us. So it can be really hard to see those things. So first of all, let me ask you to start out by telling us, what is your soul story and why do we need to understand it?
I love this. So this is a huge part of the work I do with my clients. I truly believe that everyone has a unique soul story and purpose, and that is what is going to make you stand out. One of the many fears that comes up for entrepreneurs that I work with is there are so many other people doing this. What makes me different and stand out? And how am I? And it's you. What we need is you. Nobody has your unique gifts, experience, expertise, and that is what's going to make you stand out. And the great thing about the time we're at in business right now is that that's exactly what you get to do. You get to show up and bring all of your weirdness and quirks and everything you love into your business. Whereas I think up until even just a few years ago, it was so much more kind of professional and polished. There was a certain way to do business and show up, but now that's all changed, and you get to bring all of you to your business and do it your way. And that's ultimately, I'm sure everyone's heard, your vibe attracts your tribe. That's what's going to connect you with your audience, your tribe, your ideal client. So be you. That's easier said than done. I know, as you said, so many people struggle with this piece. Like, yeah, but what is that? What is it that makes me unique? And because we just be, right? We just do us, and we don't necessarily know all of those pieces that do make us stand out. So I believe that we do have a unique purpose, but also that purpose grows and evolves and expands as we do. So I'm always checking in with 3 parts that I believe really help us to identify our purpose. They are understanding your passions. So what makes you jump out of bed in the morning, even if you weren't paid to do it? What would you jump out of bed and what really lights you up? Your gift. So these are your strengths, things that you do naturally with ease, with flow, and you could just do all day long and not even notice the time. So what are those strengths? And that's not to be confused with skills. Skills are things we learn to be good at. Strengths are things that you just do without even thinking about it. Now, I will add that this is the piece that I think people struggle with and don't necessarily know what these gifts are, because we do it so naturally, because it's our zone of genius. business. So you might want to ask people who know you well, friends, family, clients, to get clear on that. And just think about what it is you do day in, day out that perhaps other people don't do with so much ease. So gifts is a second thing. And the third piece of identifying your purpose is understanding your core desires. How do you want to feel in your business and life? And I love Danielle Laporte's work on the desire map for this. Really understanding how you want to feel will enable you to make sure the things you're going after externally are really meant for you, are really soul aligned, and not just because you feel you should be doing them. Because especially in this day and age of social media, it's so easy to get shiny object syndrome and want to do things because somebody else is doing them or think that that's the next best step. And there's no one way to do business or life. So check in with what feels good to you. Your passions, your gifts, and your core desires. In the middle of those three things, you will find your purpose.
So how do you recommend that people go about doing this? You'd mentioned talking to people that we know. Is hiring a coach a good thing? How do you recommend that people really get clear on what their purpose is based on these three elements?
I will always say work with a coach, because the vision we have in our zone of genius, we can't always see for ourselves. So it's super helpful for me. The best thing has been working with a coach who can help me see the pieces of my zone of genius that I couldn't see. And also that sometimes friends and family can't help you with either because they're too close. So working with someone who's able to get to know you and to see how you work and what you do. So yes, coaching is definitely going to help you with this, but you can start with just journaling on it. So I would start with each piece individually. So have a look at the passions. This is something that will probably come more easily. So journal and write on what are the things that really light you up. If money wasn't an object, if you could spend all day doing something, what would that be? Is it writing? Is it speaking? Is it coaching? Get clear on what those passions are. Core desires, again, I recommend going through Danielle Laporte's desire map to really understand that piece. And then the gifts, again, meditate on this, ask for guidance, for support, and journal and see what comes up for you on this.
And what was your journey like to finding your soul story? How did that come out of your big shift in life and business?
Do you know what? I think we always actually know. So spending time in silence, I spend a lot of time meditating to connect with myself. So that is going to be a huge part of this soul story piece, is actually being with yourself and tuning inward. I think we get distracted from our soul purpose and what we inherently know when we are just busy all the time and we're online and hyper connected. That's not the place to approach this from. So if anything, I would say spend much more time in stillness, going inwards, tuning in and asking those questions. You can open yourself up for divine guidance, connect with your subconscious and just ask smart, open questions like, what is my soul story? And you will get answers coming up. You can start journaling on this. That is the best place to start. And think about what you loved doing as a child as well, because children just know. We just do these things naturally. We are just connected to our soul purpose. And I have always known what my soul purpose was, and I think we always do. And going back to childhood and connecting inwards will support you with uncovering that.
I love that because I really struggled with that for so long. You know, you hear people say, go back to what you enjoyed as a child. And one thing that I did from a very young age, from about 7, was I started writing books. Because I was a big reader and couldn't get enough books to satisfy my reading appetite. So I just started writing my own books and then stopped writing. And for most of my life, I was not a writer. I completely quit. And then a couple of years ago, I started back up again and little by little started publishing my own books. And that has been so deeply satisfying. It's something that's easy for me. It's something that just flows. It feeds my soul. And that's one of those things that goes back to childhood. But I'd completely just stopped for decades.
Yeah, we forget, life takes over. We start getting told what to do as soon as before, but certainly when we're at school, we start getting told to actually focus and spend a lot of time on things that we're not good at. If you think about most of our traditional education system, where we spend the most of our time on the things that we're not doing so well at. So if you're not so good at maths, you'll have to spend extra time making up the grades or working on that area. And that's completely the wrong way to approach things. I wish we could shake that school system up and get people to focus on their gifts, because that is what is going to change the world. Actually, if we have more people living on purpose and following their passions and their soul journey, the world will be a much more joyful place. We'll have more people living on soul fire, as I say. So just go back to that, or don't let go of that. Anything that lights you up, follow that, even if it's just one small thing at a time. I remember Rebecca Campbell, Hay House author, talking about her journey to self-discovery and the first book that she had published, Light is the New Black. She said it simply started with her following her love of flowers. She loves flowers. She used to go and write in the rose garden at Regent's Park, I believe. And from there, she was inspired to write her daily thoughts, and that turned into a blog, and that turned into her book. So follow the tiny pieces that light you up. And if you follow each tiny step and each tiny piece of inspiration, that will also lead you to your soul path. Your intuition and the things you enjoy won't lead you far astray. So it's all of those little pieces.
And I think that's an excellent story because following your soul path is not linear. It's not logical. No. It makes sense when you're there and you're looking back. But when you're on the path, nothing about it is logical. Liking flowers and going to sit in the rose garden, who would have thought that would have led to her writing her book and the path that she's on now? So I think it's also about learning to trust your instinct and trust your intuition and trust these impulses that even if you don't know where they're leading you, it's going to be somewhere good because it's something you enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're so conditioned to not listen to that voice. How easy would it have been for Rebecca to say, oh no, I'm too busy. I can't go and sit in the rose garden. I've got stuff to do, and we get stuck in our heads and we push and back in that pushing and forcing and working. And actually, if you can just allow yourself the spaciousness to do what lights you up. Like this morning, I almost got caught in that space. I spent an hour and a half walking my dog in Richmond Park and just enjoying nature and the deer running around. And that's when I'm in flow and that really lights me up and energizes me. But my ego was trying to get me caught in that you've got stuff to do. You've got to hurry up and get back to your office. It's trusting that the instincts and the intuition, as you say, and doing what does light you up. Not all the time, obviously, there is work to be done, but it's finding that balance and that flow.
Yeah. In particular, if you're having one of those days where you're feeling stuck and nothing's working and you're trying to push through and force yourself, sometimes just allowing yourself some space to go outside or do something else, read a book, sometimes that will just unlock the block and allow you to be even more productive afterwards.
Oh my goodness, absolutely. The first thing I say to my clients if they're stuck is, if you're stuck, move your body, move your physiology, because that's going to shift everything. That will shift your mind. And I remember one particular day being really stuck on some new programs I was creating in my business. And I spent a day pretty much like punishing myself, sat at my desk trying to write this sales page. And then I was like, do you know what? Nothing's happening here. I need to just move. And I went out and I took my paddleboard. I do a lot of paddleboarding. So I went down to the river, took my paddleboard out, and I created a whole new program in like an hour of being on the river just because. And I was like, why did I not just do this at the beginning of the day? But I think counterintuitive, isn't it? It's just we were taught to push and work. And I got so much done just by being outside and enjoying myself.
Well, and that was going to be my next question. You spend a lot of time out in nature, paddleboarding, running, walking your dog. How do you think that affects your business? And how do you think that brings you more success in business?
It's everything to my business and my life. It's what I love. I feel completely abundant and rich because I live that life. And that's the most important thing to me is the lifestyle that I now have that I didn't have before. When I did work in corporate and I chained to my desk from 8 till 8 or whatever it was, that's what I was really craving. That's what my soul wanted, was to just be outside and to be able to spend more time with my dog and to be able to play and travel when I wanted. And now I get to do that. So that is everything. But it also feeds back in. That is definitely the biggest part of my success, is that I allow myself time to do what lights me up. And actually it's a non-negotiable. It's a non-negotiable for me to be able to run, to be able to paddleboard when I want, to be able to travel regularly. And that's where I get my inspiration. That's where I come alive. And so that energy is fed back into my business and to my clients. It has an impact on everybody else.
I love that. So how do you work with people? How can our listeners learn more about how to work with you?
So all of the ways to work with me and all of my trainings and things are on my website, which is louisegeorge.co. We have so many different ways to get involved, from online member site to group masterminds and private coaching. Again, all of the information's on the website. We have an incredible community. Our tribe is called Soul Fire Sessions. It's a really holistic approach to business and life. It's all about that soul alignment first, which is the soul, and then the fire is the the external actions.
I like that. So you've given us your website URL. Where can people find you online? What are your favorite social networks to hang out on?
My favorite social networks are Facebook and Instagram at the moment. So Instagram is instagram.com/louisegeorge.co, and Facebook is the same, louisegeorge.co for my business page, and Soulfire Sessions is the community.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us today.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And thank you for listening. And remember to visit hollywharton.com/227 for the show notes on this episode. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to the Business Mindset Podcast. You can find more information about today's episode, including links for the topics that were discussed, at hollywharton.com. If you'd like to connect with other listeners and learn more about business mindset, join my private community for entrepreneurs at hollywharton.com/group. That will redirect you to the Facebook group. And if you enjoyed this episode, please remember to head over to iTunes and leave a quick review of this podcast. It just takes a minute. Thank you so much.